Andrea, it's been less than 18 hours. We're back on the
Yep.
air. So
Good morning.
coffee in hand, we're ready to go. I've switched to water. So I
Do
had
it.
four shots of espresso this morning to jumpstart me.
Oh
So
my.
we are ready to go. Getting back into the groove of things this week. So happy
Yep.
Thursday, everybody. We've got a good one today. Say hello to everybody in the chat. Let us know that you are here and where you're tuning in from. I enjoy watching all of the tribers tuning in from all over the globe. I don't
I don't know what's up with the tiny comments, so we're just gonna have to fix that.
I
Yep.
have way too much fun with my Roadcaster. I've got a bug in the software somewhere. It did it last night. I don't know why. So
All
hopefully we'll
right.
fix that. So Tektronic IT tuning in from Southwest Missouri. Ernst tuning in from the Netherlands. Let's see who else we got on here. Saggy from Philadelphia tuning in. So now we're rolling in. Everybody's saying hi this morning. Oh, we've got a fiery one today, I think. So
Yeah, we've
Grand
got a
Rapids.
legend
Yes,
joining us
can't
today
wait.
too.
This
So
is
I
one of
think
those
there's
ones
some.
I've had circled. How about you, Andrea?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Jen McCrory tuning in. Love to have her back on the show. All these repeat guests tuning in this week. South Florida. We got Portugal in the house. Netherlands. Central Massachusetts. Batavia, Illinois. So Midwest is representing today. So David from Wisconsin.
Nice.
And then Brendan from Smoky, Canada. Are there wildfires again, Andrea? Like there were, I'm assuming that's what he means by Smoky, Canada.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, they had all the wildfires last year. So hopefully that's not the case. I know Texas is recovering from the hurricane this week. So those of you who are in Texas, hope everybody is safe and sound. But we have a great one today, folks. We want to welcome you, those of you who are tuning in live. Just to let you know, if you have questions for our special guest this week, type the letter Q : and ask your question in the comments. We'll try to do these as we go, but we'll try to reserve some for the end if we get those pile up at the end. So, and this is being recorded. So as soon as we go off of the air, if you give YouTube a couple minutes to catch up, you'll be able to flip back and go watch this recording from the beginning. I'm going to work on timestamps. I know that Jamie Warner, I think it took me 2 hours to go through and timestamp that video, Andrea, because there was just so much gold there. And I think it's going to be the same today for our special guest, good friend of mine. I've known Paul. We've yet to meet physically. That's kind of the COVID thing happened. I've not met so many people in real life, but I'm looking forward to changing that maybe this year. So without further ado, help us welcome the one and only, the legend that is Paul Green.
Woohoo!
See, I didn't know what title to put down below your name. So I just put he's an MSP marketing master, and I don't think that really does justice for you, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. We want to have glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And I love the sound effects, by the way. I think you're almost like a 1990s radio DJ waiting for the technology to catch up for you to do this from your home. I love it. And I'm sure we'll have lots more sound effects in the next 60 minutes or so.
It's crazy, like how much things have gone. Like I always wanted to be a DJ, and it's like I get to do that and get paid for it now. So like, how cool is that? So yeah, John. See, there's the tiny comments again. So we can't have tiny comments. So I'm gonna have to get with Ecamm, see if there's a bug in there.
Those tiny comments just can't have it.
Jedi Master. We could probably put 100 titles for you, Paul. But being that this is a tribal fireside chat, I'm ready to make some s'mores today. I think that's kind of what I envisioned for today's session. We're sitting around fire and we're gonna build some s'mores. And our topic today is all about marketing. So let us know, those of you who tuned in or are tuning in live, what your number one frustration with marketing is. Put that in the comments, but we're going to pile those up and then maybe see if we can allay some of those comments and some of the fears behind marketing that folks have. Because I think that's it. What do you actually? Let's ask the master. What do you think is the number one thing that MSPs have with marketing that really stops them from being successful?
That's a really good question. And by the way, on the subject of questions, when Andrew says submit any question, literally any question, because between me and Andrea, if we can't answer a marketing question, without being, this is the opposite of humble, but I suspect there is no answer. If, between us, we must have 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years of experience in MSP marketing. So there's tons of expertise here on this. So your question, Andrew, was what makes marketing difficult? I think it was what makes marketing difficult for MSPs. And I think the biggest fundamental problem is when you start your own MSP, you're probably this guy. Well, first of all, you're probably a guy, right? Because like 99% of MSPs are men. We know there are lots of women in the channel, but you're probably a guy who is always really love computers, got into it in an early age. You're technically minded. You love the actual, maybe in the old days, it was like soldering and physically building PCs and stuff like that. And then what happened is you went on to study that, and then you went on to do it for a job. And then one day you had an entrepreneurial seizure, as Michael Gerber calls it in his book, The E-Myth Revisited. It's when you get that idea in your head that you should run your own business. And once, of course, it's in there, you've got to go and act on it. So you start your own IT services business, maybe a break fix shop back in the day, whatever it is, it's now managed services. The point is that as the owner and the driver and the leader of the business, you are a technician through and through. You're a technical person. Everything is, should be broken down into a series of logical steps. And that to you is easy. It's ironic because to the rest of the world, that stuff's really hard. Like, I'm not a tech at all. I'm the exact opposite of a tech. I find technology incredibly hard. And but for you, that's an easy thing. The problem is then when you get past the first couple of years of having your own business, because anyone can grow a business in the first couple of years just through sheer energy. You get going, you talk to anybody, you go to networking even though you hate it. You just sort of put out there into the world that you've started this business, you've got these capabilities, and you're looking for clients, and you just attract clients, and you get referrals, and word of mouth seems to work, and that gets anybody started in the first few years, but it runs out eventually. I think it's about when you start to get your first couple of members of staff, and your attention is now on trying to keep the quality of the product high and trying to train your new team. And what happens is the phones don't ring, the website traffic goes down, and suddenly you think, I've got to get good at marketing. The problem with marketing is it's the complete opposite of tech stuff. It's not simple. There isn't a single way of doing something. In fact, there's 1,000 different ways of doing most things. Even if you just look through the Tech Tribe, and I love the Tech Tribe. I've been a member for about 7 years. I go in pretty much every single day. And I don't contribute very often, but I read everything every day. And I'd rather contribute one high quality post a week than 50 low quality posts. But I see what everyone's asking about, and I look at all the marketing things, and it's the same questions that come up again and again of how do I get leads? Where do I start? What's the best marketing tactic? And you look at any of those threads and you'll see, loads and loads of people coming in with, oh, you should do this. Like Steve Dempsey, for example, who's awesome. Steve is Mr. SEO on the Tech Tribe. And what he doesn't know about SEO, search engine optimization for MSPs, probably doesn't need to be known because he's been doing that for so long and he's such a specialist at it. So to Steve, that's the answer, right? And then you've got someone like me who doesn't do SEO, but I'm very much about very simple systems, outbound lead generation, and doing it the long, hard way so that you build something, which is what we're going to talk about in this fireside chat. And then you'd have someone else who'd have a completely different opinion and say, oh, you need a lead magnet, or you need a this, or you need a that. And none of these are right or wrong. And this is, I think, what makes it hard for technical people, where if you've got to reboot your XP machine into purple mode, right? There's an instruction for that, isn't there? There's a very simple instruction which is in a manual or in Google, and marketing isn't like that. So I think it's the what should I do, and the fact it's too big that makes it a problem. What we're going to do here today is we're going to try and make it smaller. So I'm going to, as we go through, I'm going to try and give you a series of things that I see lots of MSPs do, and I see what that works for a lot of MSPs. And I'm not necessarily, I would never claim to say this is the only way, but what I can do is try and show you some things that MSPs do, which just reduces your options and just makes it a little bit simpler for you.
So I think you touched on, the hard part for us as technicians is like we're passionate about that. We tend not to be as passionate about something that maybe we can't master, that we feel like we can't master it. So then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not good at marketing. Same thing could be of sales, that I'm just not good at it. Maybe I'm just not cut out to be. But do you think all MSPs can be good marketers?
Well, I think anybody could do anything. There's very few restrictions in the age that we live now on you doing anything. You mentioned Jamie Warner, right? I've had Jamie Warner on my podcast at least once, maybe twice, and he's a great example because he's got Envirosoft is his second business, but he's still got his original MSP. And what's that up to? Is it about 10 million, 20 million
I think he's
Australian
pushing 10 million.
dollars?
Yeah.
10 million, yeah. So, but that's not from overnight. That's years and years and years of work. And he always sticks in my head as a great example of it was years and years and years of work. And then what really made the difference was when they got serious about marketing, and they got serious about marketing and sales, and they trained well, they brought in resources, and they systemized it. And you're going to hear me talk about systems a lot in this, because I think creating marketing systems is the key to making marketing easy for your MSP. But Jamie's a great example of it's someone who doesn't have a marketing skill who got good at marketing. Any MSP can do this, absolutely anyone. The challenge is, this challenge isn't just for MSPs, this challenge is for every human on the planet who has their own business. The challenge is getting good at marketing while also looking after your staff, delighting your clients, growing your business, paying your taxes, managing cash flow, and all the thousand other things. And this is a challenge for every business owner everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got a few we had asked that question. What do people find the most challenging? Tektronic IT said engagement. Ernst said creating real good content for LinkedIn, mail, blog, white papers. And then Upscale VoIP posted over on YouTube. Definitely is keeping the engagement over social media since it's constantly changing. Lately, we went from having good traffic to having it so low, no good interaction at all. So again, it kind of just fulfills itself when things get bad. So
Yeah. So that brings up a really good point. So I'm an MSP. I've been getting lots of, leads, word of mouth, which is kind of generally how it all starts, right? You get everything word of mouth, everything's coming in via referrals. That starts to dry up. I decide I want to start doing marketing, but I don't know where to start. So what's the best way for an MSP to get started with marketing?
Yeah, really good question, Andrea. So there's a kind of a tactical answer to that, and there's a strategic answer, and let's look at both of those. So if I explain the difference, so tactical is where you almost out of a bit of a panic of, oh my goodness, I haven't had a referral for 3 months. I've just realized that we don't have a pipeline. and we need something. We're going to actually, it normally comes from when someone's losing a client. So you get, a month's notice or 2 months notice, and you realize, wow, I'm going to struggle to pay my bills. We need to get some marketing going. And that's when people tend to think tactically. So tactically, the answer to where do I get started is just get started with something. Let's take the Tech Tribe marketing packs, which come out every month. They're great, right? There's loads of content in there that you can use. You from a tactical point of view, just grab some content, start putting stuff on LinkedIn, start doing activity. Start emailing, doing emails out to your database. If you don't have LinkedIn contacts, you don't have email database, you can build those fairly easily, and we can talk about that in a second if we need to. But just start doing something. The downside of that, just doing something and just do activity, it is just tactical stuff. And like we just heard, engagement on social media, it is hard to keep it going. It is hard to keep pushing, and someone somewhere's got to be pushing and doing stuff all the time. What I prefer, if you've got a bit of space and the ability to just step back and build something, is to take a more strategic look at your marketing. And strategically, you might look at it and say, right, I'm going to build a system where we're doing something every single day, every single week, every single month. And the things that we're doing are helping to ultimately build it. Well, I'll give you the 3-step system that I'm going to recommend, which works for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of MSPs across the world. This is a great example of a marketing strategy. 3 simple steps. I'll tell you what the steps are, and then I'll go back and explain them. So the first step is to build multiple audiences of people to listen to you. Come back to that in a second. Second step, build a relationship with them. And the third step is you then convert that relationship. So that first step is build audiences. For example, your LinkedIn connections is an audience. Subscribers to your LinkedIn newsletter, which is a second audience within LinkedIn. If you've got a YouTube channel, your YouTube subscribers is an audience. Your email database, even if there's only 50 leads in there, it's still an audience. So systematically, and this is a strategy, this is a strategic look at it. Every single day, you're adding new LinkedIn connections and adding new people into your email and adding new subscribers. And again, we can go and look at all specifics of all of those if you want to. But that was that first step. The second step then is to build a relationship. Now, this is where stuff like the Tech Tribe marketing pack, I have my own business that does this. There's lots of other options for content. There's no lack of content in the channel, that's for sure. There's plenty of content around, and you have to find the best content that fits what you feel is right for your MSP. But this is the job that goes on forever. You use content and you use some other tactics to build relationships with people. Because here's the core problem with marketing. People only buy when they are ready to buy. Let me say that again, because it is critical to understand. It's the core problem. People only buy when they're ready to buy. So you could speak to someone today who's a business owner in your town, 30 seats, they've got an incumbent MSP and they're kind of happy, right? They're like, yeah, you speak to them, however you speak to them, they say, yeah, we've got these guys, we've had them for years, we're okay with them. We're going to stick with them for a few more years, right? So it's that person is not ready to switch. But in 2 years' time, when their contract comes to an end and perhaps their MSP has been taken over by a bigger MSP and perhaps the prices have gone up and perhaps the service levels have dropped, they feel as though things aren't as good as they used to be. And most switching decisions where someone switches from one MSP to another, it's very much a feeling. It's not often a logical thing. They just feel that things aren't as good as they used to be. If that person, that business owner is going to wake up one Thursday morning and think, right, today's the day, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to get some quotes, I'm going to get some people in, we're going to switch to a new IT company. When we say about getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time, that's the right person, that's the right time. And we've just got to make sure we get the right message in front of them. So that's why we do content. And there's a big difference between tactical, just put content out, and strategic content. So for example, if we take those audiences that you are building, LinkedIn, you put a piece of content on every single day. And it's not salesy content, it's what we call edutainment content. So it's educational and it's entertaining in the same package. You teach them about technology, you educate them, you make it fun for them. Not geeky stuff, not techie stuff. It's all stuff which is of interest to them. Productivity, how to get more out of their staff, how to stop their staff complaining, all of that kind of stuff. So we put daily content onto LinkedIn. Then we might send out a weekly email. So we just send an edutainment email out, and let's put in a monthly thing. The Tech Tribe has printed newsletters. I love printed newsletters. Let's send a printed newsletter every month to the hottest prospects that we've got. Now, you would do that for the next 10 years. And in fact, you only stop doing that when someone buys, says bye-bye, as in they unsubscribe, or they die. Right? That's the only time that you stop that relationship building to them. Otherwise, you just keep going because you don't know when's going to be the right day for those people. So let me just go back over those 2 steps and we'll do the third step. So that first step was build multiple audiences. Second step was to build a relationship with them. The third and final step is then convert that relationship. Now, there are lots of different ways of doing this. I find the most effective way is you pick up the phone and you call people. When I say you, I don't mean you, the owner of the MSP. It's the last thing you want to do. I don't want to do it. Andrew doesn't want to do it. Andrew doesn't want to do it. No one likes doing it. So you go and hire someone like a back-to-work mom who, the kids are at school, they've been at school for a few years. She maybe left a good career to start a family, and now she's back. She wants to get back into the work market. But hey, guess what? I want to work from home. It's got to be flexible, and it's got to be something I enjoy. You and I hate picking up the phone and calling strangers, but maybe she loves it. Maybe she did it in a previous career. Maybe she's just comfortable. I say she because I've hired and fired hundreds of these people, and I do find that women are way better than men at this kind of role. But maybe she loves making outbound calls, and you're not even asking her to do any selling. You're asking her to phone your LinkedIn connections, your email database, maybe some other audiences, and just engage with them. Hey, how are you? Tell us about you guys. So what do you do and who do you do it for? And here's a killer killer one to throw in, a killer question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your current MSP or your current IT support company? And if they give an answer of 7 or below, they're unhappy, and there's an opportunity for you. So those 3 steps there, that in itself is a marketing strategy. And it's a very simple marketing strategy, very easy one, but it's also a deceptively powerful one.
Oh, good stuff.
That's awesome. And first of all, you're speaking my language. I knew we were going to be best friends. And second, you touched on something super important, and that is that there's a lot of content out there, definitely readily available across the channel. But the one thing I think a lot of MSPs do struggle with is that list. I mean, I hear a lot of them say, but who do I market to? I don't necessarily have a prospect list. And you talked about the audience, you talked about different ways they can build that. But can you dive a little more into that? Like if they are struggling a little bit with that list building?
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone struggles with that list. So
Yeah.
I'm going to avoid using 2 words that you and I will know very well, Andrea. And that's those 2 words are buyer persona, right? Because that's marketing babble speak. And I try very hard to stay away from marketing babble speak. A buyer persona is essentially figuring out who do I want to do business with. And you could spend months and you can pay consultants tens of thousands of dollars to help you figure that out, or you can just sit down with one of your technicians or your business partner or your life partner and just ask a few basic questions, such as who do we want to do business with? What kind of people do we like? And you might sit there and say, well, we hate lawyers, right? Because lawyers are just terrible people. So we don't want to work with lawyers, but we love CPAs, accountants. I want to work with them because they're fun. Hate dentists because no one likes dentists. And my girlfriend is a dental assistant, or a dental nurse, so I probably shouldn't say that. But we love veterinarians. So you can literally sit down and look at. There's only about 40 sectors in the whole world, really, when you drill it down. Love working with doctors, hate working with these people. So that's a basic step in itself. And then you can start to say, well, what about number of seats, right? Well, how many staff do they have? Do we want one-man bands? No one wants one-man bands. Do we want 3-person bands? Do we want 5, 10, 15, 20? What's our minimum number of users? Now, users is a bad word that ordinary people don't use, but we understand what that means. It's a basic thing of what's each client got to contribute in bucks, right? So if you've got a minimum 10 users, that's fine. You now know you want to work with veterinarians, CPAs, not lawyers, but who've got at least 10. And obviously, depending on where you are, if you're in a very rural area, there's not going to be many of those. But if you're in LA, there's going to be 20 of those on your street, right? A lot of that depends on what's available in the marketplace. So those are 2 basic things. And then you can ask yourself another question like, what are we good at? What do we enjoy doing? Oh, we're really good at the cloud. We're really good at security, but we hate going on site. We hate hardware conversations. We hate VoIP. We don't want to do any of that. Great. And do you see how actually what we're doing here is we're starting to narrow down. We've gone from I will work with anybody down to I would prefer to work with CPAs who have a minimum of 10 seats or devices or whatever, who don't want us to support their VoIP or a specific software solution or something like that. And I think that's the way you've got to do it, is you've got to drill it right down. Then to build the audience, it's really easy because LinkedIn is the world's biggest and most up-to-date database of every possible future client you could ever have. Don't get me wrong, there's hundreds of other places you can go. ZoomInfo is a great place to get it. Apollo.io is a great place to get data. There's data and people everywhere. You can just scrape Google, right? You can go onto Fiverr and pay someone somewhere $20 to scrape a Google search for you. So finding who the people are isn't the problem. The problem is actually getting them to engage with you. And I think LinkedIn is the right answer for most MSPs until you sort of get to the point where you're hiring a marketing agency or you've got sales teams, and then you need to think a bit bigger. So what would you do? You go into LinkedIn, you type in, right, CPA. Where are you, Andrea? You're in Nashville, aren't you? So CPA. What town is Nashville the town, or is it's the
I'm
town,
in
isn't it?
I'm in Franklin, so even
Franklin.
smaller.
Okay. Okay, so you type in like CPA or accountant, Franklin. You do that in LinkedIn, you do it in Google, and you'd kind of say, right, there are 20 firms here. Let's just go and have a look at their websites. Oh, look, this is this is just a one guy operation. This one's got 30 staff. This one's got this, and you just kind of go and connect to them on LinkedIn, and you put them into LinkedIn. You go and connect with managing partners, anyone that's got partner or director, assistants as well. You've got two types of people you want to talk to. You've got decision makers and influencers. The decision makers are obvious. It's the owner, it's the executive manager, but the influencers are often the real decision makers. It's often the virtual assistants, the PAs, the receptionists. You know, the operations head of operations. Those people tend to be asked, which one do you think we should go with, that MSP or that MSP? So you connect all of these people on LinkedIn. They won't all accept your connection requests, but guess what? If you attempted, let's say, 20 connection requests a day, and even if only 10% actually accepted it, then every day you're adding 2 or 3 new connections on LinkedIn. And then once you've got those connections, you can just go and find their email addresses, which is really easy. It's in their LinkedIn contact details, or you just Google it, because it'll be a variation of paul.green at domain.com, or pgreen at domain.com. Yes, my parents called me pgreen. Thank you for that. Or p.green, or paulg, or paul.g. And you go and find that email address and you add it into your CRM, your MailChimp, or Growably. Of course, you would use Growably for this. And theoretically, we should ask their permission to put that email address in there. However, the world's spam laws are aimed at those people that send out 10 million spam emails a day, and they're not aimed at business owners like us that are just slowly adding 2 or 3 people a day into our email program, and sort of sending an email saying, hey, we've just connected on LinkedIn. I hope you don't mind. I've added you to my email list. If you'd rather I didn't email you, it's not a problem. Just unsubscribe below. Which, by the way, is a great approach, and you'll get like one out of 100 that will unsubscribe, and the rest of them, they're just on your email list. So, those are just 2 examples of easy ways that you could do it. But I think making it easy, in fact, that's going to be a theme of everything we talk about here as well, is make it easy. Marketing is already complex and hard. And even people who do marketing full time, like myself and Andrea, we can't know everything about marketing because it's too big. It's way too big. So your job is to just bring it down and be the smallest possible set of tasks for you.
So I think you touched. So you touched on a couple of the questions people had. Dean asked, where and how do you find contacts to add to your prospect list? So you definitely touched on. You and I could go on and on about LinkedIn all day long. I love LinkedIn. I still think it works. So, folks, by the way, if you don't know how to use LinkedIn, or you're wondering, what do I say in those reach out messages? There's 2 full courses in the Tech Tribe on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn Advantage is 4 hours. That was the one we did a few years ago. There's a condensed version of that called the LinkedIn Growth Map. But if all of the scripts that Paul's talking about right now, Paul and I definitely, we could geek out all day long on as to how to use LinkedIn. Even the free version, you can find so much information to start building that list. So I think that's an easy place to start, is something that everybody has access to. Let me make sure I didn't miss any questions that haven't come in on the YouTube chat. So I think that covers that one.
Can I just answer the GDPR question from the last gentleman's question? So GDPR is like a European and a UK law. It's just it's like a privacy law about data. Not having your data go out there. The answer to that, if you're concerned by my advice of just find email addresses and just put 2 or 3 a day into your CRM, the answer is go buy data. So you go to, I don't know if the gentleman was in the UK, but here in the UK, there's a company called Selectabase, which just buys data from a company called Experian and resells it. They're great. I've used them for years. You buy data. The one downside of buying data is you never really own it. You're licensing it. And so you might license it for 12 months. And at the end of the 12 months, you can't use it anymore. And they do seed it with fake email addresses that go back to the owner of the data. So if you're emailing, like in month 13, 14, 15, you will get caught. But that's the GDPR answer to that. Personally, I prefer the long quality, the long high quality approach of just generally building up your database.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the concern, and I know there's privacy laws even being enacted here in the States and in Canada. I think somebody had mentioned, who was that? Where did that go?
I think Canada has some of the biggest data protection
Yeah, Brendan
laws,
said that
worldwide. Yeah,
has anti-spam
they have.
legislation where we can't send out emails to people or businesses without their consent.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So Canada is probably the one exception to this rule, because actually I have heard that if you get it wrong in Canada, Mounties turn up and they plunge a sword into your chest. So it's actually really, really serious in Canada. But the rest of the world, we can just do it. Well, even in Canada, you can buy data, right? So
Right.
so you just go and buy data, and that's the answer to that problem.
yeah, and I think too, is going back to it, if you have that as a relationship established on LinkedIn, you're not breaking any laws. Like there's no
Yes.
privacy laws all over the world. If you're making connections on LinkedIn, you're not going to run into, privacy or emailing. But that's the whole point of that conversation, is to get a relationship started, so that one, they either opt in to something that you have, whether that be, a free report, a webinar, or better yet, they book time on your calendar. That's something, then you get their contact information. You now have permission to email them. So that's the whole point of getting that relationship started. But LinkedIn was the easiest place to do it.
Yeah, the reality, I think, for 99% of MSPs is that they won't be flooded with people booking onto their calendar or, attending a webinar or something like that. So, that's why I think sometimes on paper that's great advice, isn't it? And then the reality is, for most MSPs, they just don't have the traffic. This is, we were talking earlier about marketing problems. MSPs find marketing too difficult. It's not simple. It's not easy. It's not a set of instructions. And in fact, just today I was having a conversation with an MSP earlier who said, our website isn't working. And I said, okay, define for me what not working. He says, well, we're not getting any leads. No one's booking 15-minute calls in my calendar. And I said, well, go into analytics and come back to me and tell me how much traffic you have. And the answer I got back was no traffic. We've had like 3 visits in a month. And it's like, well, what are you doing to drive traffic? And even something like that, as we know, it's in 2024, it's hard to drive traffic to a website. You can't just rely on tactical stuff. You've got to make a long-term commitment to do that. And actually, LinkedIn is a great way to do it. I think, LinkedIn is not the answer to all marketing problems, but it solves a lot of marketing problems for people at the beginning of their marketing journey. And I think that's why you and I love it so much, Andrew.
Absolutely. So what do you think is working right now? I mean, what do you see as working, something that's working consistently for people to get started, to get those leads, to get the meetings, get the prospects into your world?
Yeah, so it's a lot of what I see working is small, simple systems like I was just talking about. So that 3-step system that works really well. That's actually at the core of what I do with the MSPs that I work with, is exactly that system. So obviously I'm biased because I I recommend a system. Those that use it get results, and we see some big winners, we see some small winners from that. It's pretty cool. I think if if you're not doing any marketing right now, do you know what would make the biggest difference, Andrew? Is we've talked a lot about tactics and strategy. What we haven't talked about is resources. I think where most MSPs really fall over is they never allocate, or they don't allocate enough regular time to work on marketing. So you'll have heard that there's you're sometimes so busy working in your business, doing stuff in the business, tech work, that you haven't got enough time to work on your business. Mentioning Jamie Warner again, and remembering my podcast interview with him from a few years ago, he was, again, one of their big switch points was when he started working more on the business than in the business. And so his job was growing the business. His job was not satisfying clients, doing tech work, making sure the service desk was running. And that, again, it's a major point for any MSP. But even if you're in the first couple of years of your journey and you're some time away from that, you can still have a small amount of time to work on your business every day. Let me tell you what I did. So I've been in business 19 years. When I started my first business in 2005, I would get up, and this is slightly extreme, but I would get up at 5 in the morning every weekday, and I'd spend 90 minutes working on my business. So every day, no matter what was happening, wherever I was, even in a hotel, 90 minutes working on the business. And certainly when like my child came along, and you know how disruptive kids can be in the first couple of years, I still had my golden 90 minutes. It was protected, and that was when I worked on the business. And that over 10 years helped me grow that business. And ultimately I sold that. It was a marketing business that I sold in 2016. And all of that business was built in 90-minute chunks. I could probably sit and work out how many hundreds or thousands of hours it was over the 10 years. And it was no different when I started this business. It's actually a habit I fell out of during lockdown. So for 4 years, I've been waking up a little bit later, but I make sure I spend at least 2 to 3 hours a day working on my business. And so I think actually in terms of what works well for MSPs is, number one is giving your own time resource. And maybe that means getting up earlier. Maybe it means sacrificing an hour of TV in the evenings. Maybe, it means just changing something, or having like lunch where no one can talk to you. Your door is shut, or you go and hide in a local Starbucks or something, and you're working on the business. And the only reason they being your staff, the only reason they can interrupt you is if the building is on fire or something like that, because those are the most important times. And what you quickly find is, you run out of things to do to grow your business. So that's when you start looking at Growably. You start looking at the marketing packs. You start looking at, should we do SEO? Should we do more on LinkedIn? The working on the business time isn't for actually going in and doing LinkedIn. It isn't for going in and doing Growably stuff. It's for thinking and looking at it and saying, what's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck? How should I improve my website? How should we improve LinkedIn? How should we do this? There's a never-ending set of things that you can do, but that 90 minutes makes you think about it, look at it, maybe take some action on it as well. One more thing on resourcing is, the worst thing you can do is try and do everything yourself. And this actually isn't doesn't just apply to marketing. This applies to just your business in general. There's another phrase I said earlier that you need to write down, getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time. Here's something that's even more important. This one's so important, I want you to tattoo it on your head, but in reverse writing, so you can see what it says in a mirror, right? You should only do what only you can do. Let me say it again. You should only do what only you can do. And this applies to the operations as much as it does the marketing. So if, for example, you're doing password resets, new users, anything like that, that frankly, even I could be trained to do, and I'm technically incompetent, right? So why are you doing that? As the owner of the business, you're probably the highest technical ability within the business. You should only be doing those extreme third level jobs that no one else can do. And obviously, if it's just you and a couple of others in the business, you've got to work up to that, but that's a great target. And it's exactly the same in marketing. I said earlier, you're not going to pick up the phone and call people. Get someone else to do it for you. Why would you load social media? Get someone else to do it for you. All of those jobs, there's very few jobs that you yourself actually need to do. And there is a world of virtual assistants out there who will do it. They don't even need to be in the country, but they could also be just down the road. In fact, COVID was great for making a whole bunch of people say, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go back to the office. I'm going to be a virtual assistant, or I'm going to get on Fiverr or Upwork or one of the other sites and do things for people. So there's tons of people out there. And as the cash allows, get other people to do your marketing for you. So your time on the business is strategic and not sort of wrapped up in tactical stuff.
It's funny because you touched on one of the things that Andrea helped me with when I was running my MSP over a decade ago. And that was it right there, is that 90 minutes a day. When I started using that 90 minutes a day to actually study marketing, it's just like with any skill, you're only going to get better by practice and study. And that was one of the things that Andrea really helped me with. So folks, you have a tremendous resource with Andrea being here as head of member success. She can help you figure out what to do in those 90 minutes. But that was one of the things that she helped me to see too, is I was doing the password resets. I was fixing the printers. I was doing, I always had that excuse. I don't have the time to do marketing. I don't have the time to do marketing. But that was actually my first hire, was a work from home tech to do password resets, to fix printers. He actually lived in Columbus and I could send him on site when needed. Which was maybe twice a month, maybe. But that freed up my time. Just doing that one thing allowed me to set aside that 90 minutes. And it is amazing what you can do in 90 minutes. But even if you wanted to cut it in half, 45 minutes of doing something every day and build up to 90 minutes. But I still think, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that excuse that we had, because I had it for years. I don't have time. I don't have the time. I don't have the time. I think we can make time as MSPs.
Yeah. And I imagine too, Paul, that a lot of times clients come to you and they're struggling to get started, and everything that you laid out sounds amazing, sounds great. It's the right thing to do. But a lot of times the problem is up here. It's a mindset. It's an overwhelm and a mindset. So what do you do to help reframe them and get them in the right mindset? Like, how do you tackle that piece of it?
Yeah, so we try very hard to make everything easy. So we even more so than I'm doing here, we strip out things that you just don't need to do and just remove everything. And it's I like to think of it as, I'll give you an example. So my daughter, who has just come in from school, I've just heard her coming in through the front door. So I'm hoping she's not standing outside listening to this, because if she is, she's going to be offended. So I'm a very tidy person. So if I took you around my house right now, even without expecting guests, you guys, like, everything's tidy, everything's clean and tidy in its place, except for one room in the house, which is my daughter's bedroom, which literally looks like a bomb went off, and then a bomb went off after the bomb went off. It's there's stuff everywhere, and I gave up years ago trying to get it to tidy it. And it's got so bad that, because we were about to go into the school holidays for 6 weeks here in the UK, and she said to me, "I'm going to get my bedroom tidy. I'm going to do it." But she says, the problem is I don't know where to start. And even I, as Mr. Clean Freak, don't know where to start. It's so bad that I'm actually thinking it might be easier to take everything out, and start again. And this is marketing, right? This is marketing for an MSP. When you look at it and you say, okay, yeah, I can get some help. I can do my 45 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever I do, but where do I start? So we take everything off the desk. And we just leave, here's one thing, do this one thing. So what we've actually done, Andrea, and we've broken down going from no marketing to a great marketing system that constantly delivers leads who book 15-minute appointments with you. That's the kind of where we go up to. We don't do sales. We stop at them having a 15-minute appointment, like Zoom call with you. We've broken that down into the smallest number of steps. And I forget how many steps there are, but there's probably about 30 something steps. And that's the answer. And I think that's what you have to do as an MSP. And I'm sure, Andrea, that's what you did in your past and what you do now with tech drivers, is you make it simple, make it easy, and break everything down into tiny little jobs, which ultimately, if you look at any tech job, that's what it is, right? Install a server and connect it to these 15 things and do that. It's just a series of jobs, right? And you might do some of them in parallel, but ultimately it just gets broken down into simple steps. And I think that's the answer to doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Chunk it down, pick one thing, focus on that one thing, have a small win, give yourself a good small win, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you got to have those things that are easy to do, because I love check marks. I love checklists and check marks. I think Paul and I, we could go all day about that. So I'm going to do a quick audience poll for those of you who are watching live. Do you have time blocked on your calendar every week to work on your business? Put that in the comments for us, because I'm curious to see, because I've coached over 1,000 MSPs plus in the last decade since I've sold my MSP. And that is 100% what I have found to be the problem, because that's everybody who came to me initially for LinkedIn. Teach me how to do LinkedIn. Teach me how to get leads. Teach me. But the problem that I found in doing that for 10 years is that if you don't set the foundation properly, like if you don't make that time to work on it, and that was the frustrating thing when I was doing coaching, one-on-one coaching, is somebody comes to the coaching call the next week, I didn't have time to get to that. When that becomes a recurring problem, then I'm never going to help you get to your goals if you don't have time to work on that. And you're never going to get to that point until you decide that nothing is going to get in the way of me setting aside that time. So I did that every week. I have a time blocked on my calendar. I started with 1 day a week, an hour, 1 day a week, where I would work on marketing. And that's what I teach them to do. Just start there. That 1 hour a week is better than what you're doing right now, which is likely nothing. So,
yeah. Can I share something I discovered about 6 years ago, which is just the easiest, best way to discover where you've got time that's being stolen from you.
Yeah.
You basically track your time for a week, and there's tons of different ways you can do it. I like the Timula. If you go and Google Timula, it's a physical dice.
Yeah.
And every time you move to a different task, you just change the dice over and it talks to your phone or whatever. But every time I feel overwhelmed, and I haven't been here for a few years, but what I would do is I would track my time for a week. And instead of tracking every little task, I grouped them into three categories: green tasks, orange tasks, and red tasks. So red tasks were anything I was doing that someone else could do for me, right? So password reset, any low-level technical stuff, admin, invoicing. MSPs are addicted to fiddling with their invoices. I mean, it's the most insane thing. Like, there's literally a million other people that would do that for you and would enjoy it when you wouldn't enjoy it, and would do it on time and wouldn't mess it up. So anything like that is a red task. An orange task or a yellow task is, because it's like a traffic light system, is stuff that's good to do, but not to do too much of it. So, for example, I jump on calls with my members, with my clients, and to me that would be a yellow or an orange task, because I like doing it. It's fun, but I don't want to do too much of it. If I'm on calls 20 hours a week, that's going to interrupt me growing my own business. So that's kind of something that has to be moderated. And then you've got green tasks, and green tasks are anything that is growing your business. There are only three ways to grow your business. You either get more new clients, or you get your existing clients to choose to buy more, and you get your existing clients to spend more, which is often about price rises. And that's it. So your green tasks is anything that grows your business. And if you just track yourself just for 1 week and then look at it, and I remember when I did it about 4 or 5 years ago, and I looked and I'm like, all of Monday, Tuesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, red tasks. I'm like, what am I doing in this time? And in my business, only I can create content for me, right? Because I'm the face of the business. We've got 10 staff, but I'm the face of the business. So only I can create content, but someone else can load it, right? Someone else can put it on LinkedIn, put it into Facebook, put it into YouTube. I have to record the videos, and we do loads on YouTube, and we do a podcast and stuff. I record it, but I don't edit it. Someone else edits it, and someone else transcribes it, and all of that kind of stuff. And that, I think, is the key to still doing the things of you only doing the things that only you can do, but other people doing everything else around the periphery.
Yeah. Jen McCrory said, yes, I just went back to time blocking yesterday. I was doing it for a while and stopped. Don't know why I stopped. So, yeah.
Maybe you didn't have time, Jen.
I find, it's because there's so much that weighs in on an MSP, and it is kind of a firefighting episodes at times, that kind of knocks you out of that rhythms some weeks, some days. But you get back into that rhythm, and you have, I think the important thing too is having free time in your calendar to be able to move things around. So that, okay, if something does happen, if Monday morning is a complete disaster and I can't get my few quick wins for the day, that I have time where I can move it to later in the week. But that's what happens. It's later in the week becomes later in, now I'll do it next week, which becomes I'll do it next month. Then a year goes by and you don't have any marketing done. So yeah, that's the challenge. So I think that from a strategy perspective, if you take away one thing today, that it would be that, to have that time blocked to just get started. And David said, I let people interrupt that time. So that's a big no-no.
So the answer to that, David, is you've got to get out. You have to staff are like children, and I don't mean that in a critical manner. Staff are like children, right? They want you to know that they're working. They want you to know that they're being good or doing things, or they'll. How many times if you have an office of your staff come and knocked on your door and said, "Hey boss, we're out of milk," right? Which just makes you want to hit them hard on the head with a baseball bat. Because of course the answer to that is get off your lazy ass, go down the shop, buy some milk, right? But because you're the boss, it becomes your problem. So if that's the culture within your business and you haven't stopped that, because you have to actively stop that culture and they are interrupting your time, David, you have to get out. Right, go to Starbucks, go to wherever your local, like a hotel or a coffee shop, something. Get out of the environment, switch off your phone, log out of Teams, Don't even go near your PSA. In fact, have a laptop that's just for marketing, which doesn't have your PSA on, it doesn't have Teams on, and don't tell your people where they are because they will try and find you. But it's the only way, and it's the kindest thing because what you're doing actually, if we look at this seriously, is what you're doing is a series of activities which will enable you to pay your staff more money. And you can say to them, I go and hide away from you for 2 hours every day so I can pay you more next year. And if you can say that by keeping a straight face, because that's the truth of it. I mean, the flip side of that is also you'll be able to have a bigger house one day, a better car, spend more time with your kids, and generally have a better life. But also you can pay your staff more. So actually everyone wins. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions that we can think of for Paul, Andrea? I know like we could talk tactics all day long, but yeah, the strategies behind it, I think that is really what MSPs need to master first. Like is start there first with that time, and find something you like to do. I think that's the other one too. So something that only you can do, but it also start with something that you like to do. Yeah, I was talking to a client a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I would like to start a podcast. Great, you're doing something. Here's how to just get started with something you think you would enjoy.
Yeah. And I think to that point, I think what you said earlier is just pick something and start too. I mean, don't be afraid to just start, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, don't be afraid to fail at something too. Like not everything's going to go perfectly every time you do it either. Marketing is always a test. That's the way I look at it. You're always testing, you're always iterating, you're always going to improve. You're always, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to go amazing, just do it. Just try it.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other parting wisdom that you have for MSPs? Let me check the chat while you're giving us a few more tidbits of wisdom that maybe that you've seen that we haven't covered today.
Well, you see, this is the problem with being on with Andrea, which is she's just given my parting wisdom, which is just get started.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You and I are so on the same page. It's really cool. I think, I think, we've talked a lot about how hard marketing is and that you should approach it strategically. I do think if you're doing nothing, let's just bring it down to, right, the Tech Tribe is the world's greatest resource for MSPs. There's every other sector in the world is kicking themselves that they don't have the Tech Tribe, because everything you need to grow your business is here in one pot, right? So just take the marketing packs, and the marketing packs in themselves, there's just enough resource there, and it's a really good high quality resource for you to take that and just get started with it. And even if you said something like, right, I'm going to post on LinkedIn 7 days a week, right? And I'm going to turn that into a system. That was what we were talking about earlier that we perhaps haven't talked about, is systems. I'm going to turn this into a system. So my system is going to be at 12 p.m. every Monday is going to be a calendar event in my calendar which says load this week's social media. And I'm going to do that for 2 months, and then I'm going to outsource it to a virtual assistant to do that for me. And that's a system, right? Sit down, 12 o'clock Monday, review the social media, load it in LinkedIn. And you can use, there's tools like Publer. I mean, LinkedIn has its own scheduling tool. It can be a bit hit and miss, but otherwise you could use a tool like Publer or Hootsuite, which is now ridiculously expensive, or there's loads of other social media scheduling tools that you can just use just to schedule that. So suddenly we've turned a daily post on LinkedIn into a 1 job a week system. And then you might have a daily job of every day go in and look at LinkedIn. Well, let me tell you about my system, right? So I have a start of day system and an end of day system. So I only work about 20 to 30 hours a week. My staff do most of the hard work. I just ponce around on webinars, stuff like this. I'm just the front man, right? And they do all the hard proper work and all the hassle. But I still have, because as the face of the business, I'm in all the communities. So I look at everything, and if there's something to be contributed, I'll contribute it. So every day I have a start of day system, which is literally it's all checking in on my own communities. So my Facebook groups, I have a WhatsApp for clients in a specific program, etc., etc., etc. And then I have an end of day, and that's where the Tech Tribe sits. So at the end of my working day, which will be about 20 minutes today, I'll go on to my end of day. and it loads up a whole load of tabs. I go and look at Reddit. I hate Reddit. I go and look at there's a LinkedIn for MSPs. There's sometimes stuff in there. There's a couple of there are other communities out there. They're not as good as the Tech Tribe, but you get to like Tech Tribe, and no, exactly, I'm not going to mention them by name. And there's, like I use the view in Tech Tribe, which just shows new posts since you last visited, and there's like 20 posts. I just have a quick flick through. And if I find something, I'm like, oh, I can add value here. I'll spend 20 minutes crafting an answer and posting it. But it's a system, right? It's never me getting to the end of the day and thinking, oh, I didn't go into Tech Tribe to add value, right? That's one of my jobs, is to add value. So I systemized it. And that's the trick, is all of this is systemizing it. So if you're putting social content on LinkedIn every day, you've got to build a system where at some point every day, and preferably at the same time every day, or the same point to like the end of each day, you go in and you check. So I'll go in and I'll check LinkedIn and I'll just look at my notifications. What new messages have I got? What new connection requests have I got? And what new comments have been on my posts? And I have a very basic set of rules, which is every message I get, I reply. If it's an MSP or a vendor, every connection request, connect to them if they're an MSP or a vendor. And every single person who comments on any of my LinkedIn posts gets a reply. Even if I've got nothing to say, I reply to acknowledge their comment. And that system's been going for like 8 years. And I've got something like, it'll be nothing compared to yours, but I've got something like 8,000, Andrew, your connections will be more. I've got something about 8,000 connections on LinkedIn. And that's been built the long, slow way in 5-minute chunks every single day by doing a system. And so I think you can break everything down into a set of systems. Now, here's the beautiful thing about systems. If tomorrow I decided I no longer wanted to be the face of the business, but I know that to be successful on LinkedIn, we have to do these 3 things every single day, I can brief a member of my team to do those things for me. And so I've got a perfectly handoverable system. And in fact, actually, everything else in the business, we're talking about standard operating procedures, but everything in my business is documented as a standard operating procedure. So there's no one person, including myself, who has to be here for the business to run. It is horrible to think about it, but I could go under a truck tomorrow and the business is going to carry on, right? In fact, they'll probably be slightly happier without me, because then I won't be interfering and sort of poking into things. But because the whole thing is systemized. So even my work is systemized in a standard operating procedure, which sounds nuts, but actually, I always think systems is it's an anagram, not an anagram, an acronym. And it stands for saves you stress, time, energy, money. So think of it, system saves you stress, time, energy, money. That's what a system is. You systemize the tech work, you systemize the proactive support work. Why wouldn't you systemize the marketing work as well?
That's fire right there. I think we could do a whole episode on that, Andrea, like just how to build systems into it. So a couple questions that we did miss. I'm just going to cover those as we come to the top of the hour. These are simple ones. Dean said, you mentioned a decent piece of content a day. There's loads out there, but finding relevant and interesting seems to be a full-time task. How do we get around that?
So I'll give you a really short answer to this, because I know I give super long answers. But Dean, earlier on we were talking about figuring out who you want to sell to. So let's say it was CPAs with 20 employees in your city, to find, when you're looking at content, what's interesting / relevant to you is not the right question. The right question is what's relevant and interesting to a CPA who's running a 20-person firm. And we call this the relevance test. So again, take those Tech Tribe marketing packs, have a look at that. It can't be relevant to everyone because there's 7 billion people on the planet. It doesn't work like that. But you can look at it and say, would a lawyer find that interesting? Would a CPA find that interesting? Would a veterinarian find that interesting? And that's your answer. And if it's not the Tech Tribe stuff, I bet you all of your vendors have got content in their portals. As I say, there's services around. There's there is too much content in the world. Not too much. It's not how it was 20 years ago. And also, you can take content and you can use tools like ChatGPT to rewrite that content as well.
That's what I was just going to say. Worst case scenario, just fire up ChatGPT. Tash asked, should I create a personal LinkedIn account to use for marketing outreach or a business account?
Not a silly question at all. It's 100% personal and 0% business. And I'll be interested to hear your spin on that, Andrew, in a second. But from my point of view, when it's a person connecting with a person, that's what people expect from LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn is moving off in a very strange direction with gaming and all sorts of stuff, but it's still ultimately about people, right? Yes, there's lots of content and there's influencers and there's newsletters and articles and all of that. But if you break down at the core, what is the core LinkedIn? It's people interacting with other people. It's the business social media network. So absolutely your personal account. And I think you'll see the best results from that. Do you agree with that, Andrew?
I do, 100%. Yeah, it's people interact. People will do business with people, not companies. So
Right.
I think you still have to have a company LinkedIn page so that when you put in your work experience, it doesn't show like you're working for a ghost company. But people will interact more with your personal content than they ever will with your business content, unless you're Coke, Starbucks, somebody else. Which, so 100%, 100%. Paul, thank you so much for dropping some awesome stuff. I'm gonna have fun. My brain's thinking now of how am I gonna go back and timestamp this. There was a lot of gold today, so. Yeah, thank you so much.
I have an idea for you on that. When we come off, I'm gonna drop one final value bomb, and it's not really relevant to everyone in the tech tribe, but for you, Andrew, it might just make your life easier. So just nothing but value today.
Good stuff.
Can I mention my tribal perk?
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yes.
Before we finish. Thank you very much. So I run a business called the MSP Marketing Edge. We've been working with MSPs for 8 years. We have 700 members around the world. Huge crossover with the tech tribe. We're best friends with the tech tribe, and I always recommend get what we do, be part of the tech tribe. They're different approaches to the same problem, which is how do I grow and how do I get new clients? So we have a very simple marketing system for you to follow and all of the content for you to make that system happen. Critically, we only work with one MSP per area. So that's the big difference with the tech tribe marketing stuff. And it's a real rule. It's been the rule since we started 8 years ago. And it's so that the marketing you use from the MSP Marketing Edge, it never clashes with any of your competitors. We have a tribal perk, and it's this perk out there. So there's no deal as good as this. And you don't even need to go and find it in the tribal perks page. If you start a trial with us, you just say, heard you on Tech Tribe, and we'll apply the perk, which is when you join, we'll give you an extra 6 months worth of content. So today is July 2024. We'll give you like content going back to the end of last year, and that's yours to keep whether you stay as a member or not. And that's been our tribal perk for about 5-6 years or so.
Nice stuff. Paul, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate your time. We know it's the end of your work day. So I would love to know in the comments too, as Andrea and I wrap, what was your number one takeaway for today? Drop that in the comments for us. So, but again,
I do want to shout out, Paul's going to join us at ScaleCon. He's going to be speaking there too. So we mentioned that yesterday, but ScaleCon is now open for registration, and Paul's going to be one of our speakers there as well. So get your tickets.
Excellent. They just opened yesterday.
It's my first ever US speaking engagement as well, which is really exciting.
Nice. Yeah. We're honored.
Good stuff. So thanks again, Paul, for being with us today. We so much appreciate your time, your gold, your knowledge, and all that you do for the MSP industry. You are a legend among men, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, that was good stuff, Andrea. That was lots of good stuff. So again, if those of you who are still on after an hour and 4 minutes, let us know what your number one takeaway has been today. We want to know. We want to know what you want to see in future episodes of the Tribal Fireside Chats so that we can bring relevant content to you. So, but I definitely do think that maybe we should maybe do something around time blocking or scheduling or something in that area. What do you think, Andrea?
Yeah, building a system is a good one. No, there were so many good things today. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And so, by the way, let me flip screens here so we can give that one more plug to what we covered yesterday. Andrea mentioned it. Paul is going to be speaking at ScaleCon. Tickets registration is open for early birds. Let me put this in the chat real quick for folks who are watching live. I think you've put this in the tribal forum already, haven't you, Andrea? the
I
links?
believe it's out there. If not, we'll make sure we put it out there now that registration opened yesterday. So
See, now that I found out Paul's coming, I may have to find a way to make it to Vegas at the beginning of October. So,
Yes.
that's quite the lineup, quite the stacked lineup there.
Yeah, and that's not even everyone. That's just the beginning. So
That is
we're
crazy.
still adding people.
All right, Andrea, back-to-back episodes are done for this week. We are going to be back on the air next Thursday at 4 p.m. So we had to move it because some of us older people, self included, have doctor's visits in the mornings. We had to bump that to 4 o'clock. So we appreciate the flexibility and schedule for next week. So, Andrea, this
Right.
was a good one. I've got so many ideas.
Oh yeah,
up in
I'm gonna
now,
go
so-
back and watch this one again. So
Absolutely. That's going to wrap it for us. We will see you all inside the tribal forums. If not, we'll see you live next Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's it from Ohio and Nashville this week.
all right,
See
have
y'all.
a great day, everyone.